morning, everyone. Once again, welcome back. And here we have our first speaker, the first elite speaker of the day, Dipu KV. He's the President, Head of Operations and Customer Service for Bajaj Allianz General Insurance. So he spearheads the digital transformation drives at Bajaj Allianz GIC, leveraging startups from fintech and insurtech globally, while leading a team of 1,000 people in 220 locations. A management graduate from the Indian Institute of Management Tech Lucknow, he joined Bajaj Allianz GIC in 2016 after a stellar career for nearly 20 years with GE Capital. During Deepu's distinguished career spanning over 23 years, his forte has been combining digital transformation with deep domain expertise and Six Sigma rigor to redesign the business model for operational excellence and customer delight. Welcome, Dipu. Welcome, Dipu, on the platform right now with us. Here you are. And the topic which he's going to talk about is how RPA integration helped Bajaj Allianz eliminate 100% manual activities. So there you go, Dipu. Good day to start with, and that lovely smile also is looking really good. Thank you so much. All over to you there. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Anupam, for your kind words. For my smile and for the very warm introduction. And good morning to the audience and all the people who worked behind the scenes to make it happen. So let me just start by sharing my screen. If you can just give me a second. Right, my screen.
Yeah, now it's gone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now it's there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. So I'll be walking you through RPA and how we leveraged robotic process automation in an intelligent manner to automate our manual activities. First, a brief intro about Bajaj Allianz General Insurance Company. We are a joint venture of Bajaj Finserv, which is a financial powerhouse in India, and Allianz, which is the world's #1 insurer. In terms of our global ranking, we are ranked number 8 amongst the top 100 digital insurers. We have been pioneers in terms of various industry-leading initiatives from a digital and customer-centric perspective. For example, we launched an end-to-end digitized, which has won many global awards recently. And especially during the pandemic, a lot of our digital initiatives came to the fore, and we've been recognized at an. So with that, let me just come to the main theme of my presentation today, which is essentially around RPA and how are we leveraged it from a future perspective. Now, if you look at the banking and financial services landscape, we do find a lot of repetitive low-value processes. It tends to happen because there is a lot of compliance. There is a lot by way of process. These are transaction-heavy industries. Then the whole perspective is how do we ramp up digitally even as we continue to serve customers, and which is where RPA comes in. If you look at RPA and AI, they are at opposite ends of the spectrum. AI is where you typically get into intelligent automation, and RPA is essentially where it's called little AI, where you automate a spectrum. So when you're able to do this, as you can see on the right hand side, the top 2 boxes, one, you obviously automate a lot of repetitive processes, which helps you from a cost efficiency perspective, and also it helps you from a consistency perspective, because these bots can work 24/7. They don't have mood swings, so therefore you get consistent output. And if you look at what's happening today, all of us would have heard many of these terms: workforce of the future, digital workforce, RPA, AI, intelligent automation, IPA, so on and so forth. In a nutshell, essentially what these terms mean is that as we go forward, the future is really going to be about a combination of man and machine. And when we say man and machine, sometimes when I ask my team leader today, he says, that I have 10 people, and then rather he has 10 entities working for him. And then I ask him, who are these 10 folks? And then he tells me that, 8 of them are bots and 2 are human beings, right? And then that's when you realize, it's, truly here to stay. So you could have an organization chart, which says that here is a team leader, with 10 folks under him. As I said, 8 bots and 2 human beings. And then, it's really going to be, an interesting org chart, when we look at it as we go ahead. The other is lightweight integration. I think the beauty of RPA is, it enables you to start with, a simple 3-step process. And this is something which I internalized at GE. Think big, start small, scale big. I think that really, comes to the fore, when you reply RPA, because it utilizes, the current application user interface, so you don't need to get into too much of modifications of applications. What you may end up doing is re-engineering your process. Takes away a lot of waste. And then if you look at, the adoption potential, the potential, can pretty much spread across the entire landscape. Of course, there is back office operations because RPA can help you automate your back office in a large way, and that helps large players, who have significant back office processes and back office manpower. Finance and accounting is again an area where RPA can come in, reconciliations and a lot of areas in finance and accounting. Risk management, especially the operational parts of it, and likewise in HR and procurement areas. Any area where it's transaction heavy. And if you look at it, you do also have a host of partners out there. While we are a platform neutral organization, we're not here to propagate any platform. But the point I'm trying to make is that the very fact that there are a lot of players, shows that this holds promise, and that therefore there's a significant market out there. And from a future perspective, we see this increasingly coming into play as the world gets into an increasingly digital way of working. So clearly, it's here to stay. Now, what is now coming more specifically to what we have done? What are the business landscape? On the one hand, we do get a lot of paper, and of course, many of them are handwritten. The logins are manual. Thirdly, when we extract and clean reports, the activity is manual as per the FIFO method. The data transfer is manual. The search of assigned cases by users is manual. Data entry is manual. And then the tracker of the monitoring which people do is manual. And then tagging of various systems to carry out issuance processes. You need to go from one system to other is manual. The follow-ups are using email. So this is how a lot of firms work. And then while we do issue tons of policies because we have a large customer base, you figure out that this tends to be a transaction heavy, manually dependent process. So this is the context, and that's where RPA came in. So to overcome this situation, what we did was we basically first decided to scrutinize the entire landscape, and then when we scrutinize the entire landscape, we realized that if we were to teach the bot the way the landscape is, the bot wouldn't be able to function. So which is when we got into re-engineering. Sometimes you may have to do a mix and match of the processes, do slicing and dicing, get into sequential switches, and essentially when we re-engineered the entire landscape, then we were able to make it mod friendly. And let me also tell you that sometimes automation journeys do not start with 100% automation. You may feel that steps 1 to 20 are manual, are automated. Steps 21 and 22 just refuse to get automated, and then again steps 23 to 40 can get automated, but you can still proceed because if you leave out only 2 steps out of 40, it's 95% automation. So you start with assisted automation where steps 21 and 22 continue to be manual, and then over a period of time you figure out a way to make them automated. So you can start with partial automation or assisted automation and then get into full automation. So we did that. We learned the ropes as we went along, and today it's completely automated since we kept our ear to the ground, and put in the whole 9 yards. So today the bot logins to our platform, and then it accesses data. The data is today submitted electronically, and then it allocates data to the users depending on the roster and depending on the skill sets, because we have different lines of business and we have different parts of the process. And I remember when the lockdown happened, and if you notice, it happened with very short notice, and all of us were at home. And then I had this query from my internal stakeholders, how will you manage? Because the team is working from home. I said, don't worry. And then I basically sent them, because we have an internal WhatsApp group, and then I sent them this message, which showed how the bot had smoothly allocated, cases to users. And they were like, wow. Because the pandemic, as somebody put it colorfully, was an unplanned global UAT. And I think, we just passed it, because we were able to ensure that it happened in an automated manner. And this automated work allocation system, it identifies the product, the shift of the resource, the skill set that he has, what is the data to be allocated, and then based on these multiple variables allocates the data. So it does make it fairly simple. And then it creates a file for the user and then intimates the user by sending an email. And all this is done without any manual intervention. So even if folks are working from home, or even if team leaders are away, the bot ensures that the work proceeds unhindered. And it does not stop with production, because at the end of the day, when you have a large shop, you also need to look at metrics. So it keeps a track of, the records processed and then sends intimation, saying that this is the current status. So that way, you're also able to, track it, from the start to the end. So that's how, RPA in a way, helped us in terms of automating our process and also helping us not just thrive, not just survive the crisis, but actually thrive through it. One question which typically get asked is what is the key success behind this. So we've identified 4 or 5 success factors which made it initiative, and that's the whole idea of knowledge sharing. So that everybody can learn from one another's journey. The first thing, as I mentioned, is we need to re-engineer the process, because when human beings operate it, even if it is not bot friendly, it works because human beings can apply their mind, right? Whereas when you make it bot friendly, when it has to be digitized at scale, there is a need for re-engineering. So that is extremely important. Second is when you actually make it bot friendly, then you realize there are so many handoffs and non-value added activities. Because when you actually put pen to paper and when you try to teach it to the bot, suddenly you start asking a lot of questions which you may not have asked otherwise. So that itself, just the act of observation, leads to success. Third, of course, you figure out, that you can make some very simple, tweaks, in terms of system enhancements and workflow developments, which are not very big, but which add significant value in terms of tracking and in terms of, like I told you that if step 21 and 22 can't be automated, how do you make it? Sometimes some very, very simple tweaks, can help you. And the fourth thing is, it eliminates emails, it eliminates any lack of, record management, because all the routing, all the referrals, tend to be auto. And the moment it's all tracked, you just find that, accountability, comes into it in a big way. And of course, communication. Communication is typically an underrated aspect of any production setup. We tend to focus on metrics and we tend to focus on outcomes. But what we realize is that a lot of customers, be it internal customers or external customers, they also need intimation. So the intimations, are also automated. So the beauty of this is, and if you see whatever I've mentioned here, everything is simple. There is nothing here which is very complicated. And I think the best solutions are sometimes the simplest solutions, because they just ensure that adoption happens at scale. What has been the impact? So the first thing is, from a project level impact, after automating this activity, we've been able to reduce our processing time, significantly. And of course, our accuracy has gone up because now it's standardized and automatic. From a business perspective, we have been able to reduce our turnaround time, which obviously means we're able to serve our partners and customers faster. And you eliminate dependency on human beings. So what that means is 24/7. Digitally, we are able to service our partners and customers with minimum disruption. Thirdly, from an ecosystem perspective, when we look at our entire network of partners, customers, because insurance is heavily intermediary driven. So we have a lot of distributors, from banks to agents to brokers to e-commerce partners, and of course, even within the organization, there are multiple value chains. There's underwriting, there is policy issuance, there is risk, there is actuary. So what this helps is that it helps you stitch it all together. And a lot of cross-functional teamwork gets created, because everybody has to be in it together to get it going. So that also helps create a lot of bonding during the office. In fact, we used to call it not work from home but bond from home during this entire project. And the most important pillar, ultimately, why do we indulge in any digitization initiative? The whole idea of indulging in any digitization initiative is to make an impact on the customer. So customer experience is the key outcome. And what this has done is, it has helped us, reduce the processing time of, proposals. And like I mentioned earlier, during the pandemic, when we had to, get into experiencing or rather offering the best experience to our customers, we did not just survive, but we were able to thrive. More than 90% of our policies today get issued digitally. More than 80% of our customers get serviced digitally. And the biggest metrics is what our customers tell us. It's not what I tell about what we have done, it's what customers tell us. Our complaints have fallen by 90%. When we got an independent NPS study done, we figured out that we enjoy the highest NPS in the marketplace. And the regulator tracks carriers by grievances. And, we found that, we were the carrier with the lowest grievances. So there were multiple validations of this initiative, from a customer perspective. And I think that's what gives us the motivation to keep going. So that's broadly what I had to share. I just wanted to keep it crisp and happy to take any questions.